much. And Rusty. Next on our agenda is our invocation with past President Bob Crutchfield.
Thank you. May we pray? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day, and we're so thankful for the opportunity to live in Columbia and to be in this thing we call Rotary, and to meet and eat and greet and help others and bond a little more and make this a greater place to live. Tomorrow, we begin a little bit deeper steps, I guess, into the election process by having the presidential debates, and I would encourage all of us to listen and certainly pray that we get the right kind of leadership, but know that we have a hand in making that happen. I'm going to take a personal side, and I know somebody else, I think, did this last week, excited to see him, and I'd like to say a word about Bob Borum, because Bob Borum is, I met him 34 years ago, and he was my pastor all the way up until he retired. And Bob's wife, Barbara, died of cancer over the holidays, and I wish if you see him, just pat him on the back and tell him you're praying for him and you love him, because we all love you. Jesus loves him too, and he'll be a great man. Aside from that, there are also other people certainly that are hurting. Somebody at your table, somebody sitting next to you. You don't know, unless somebody brings it up. But say a good word to somebody, and it'll come back and bite you. No, you need to do that anyway. Hope that you'll bless this food and nourish my bodies. Bless thy service. In Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Bob. Visiting Rotarians and guests, Gula.
Hello all. So today we have Congressman Joe Wilson from KC and his senior aide. And his senior aide, Butler Wallace from West Metro. Sorry, I apologize. Do we have any guests today?
Any guests today?
Thanks all.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Joe, for being here today. Next on the agenda is Andy Shane with Health and Happiness.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? Good. So it's Health and Happiness, so we won't talk about the Gamecock game on Saturday. And I always am told that I neglect to mention the Clemson Tigers, but they didn't play this week, so I don't have to mention them this time. We'll talk about them next week. A few announcements. First of all, congratulations to Andrew Clarkson for placing third in the board bash at Lake Norman in his Sunfish sailboat. So congratulations. And his prize for that, of course, is so you can ask for a free ride on the sailboat. So just please see Andrew afterwards. A couple of announcements from Glenn Matthews. First of all, he wants to say, obviously, that his wife, Melanie, is doing better after her accident last Friday, and he wants to thank everyone for their thoughts and their prayers. That's so good to hear that she's doing better. And also, speaking of Glenn, his company, Modern Exterminating, is celebrating its 65th anniversary this week. So there you go. That means your company can go ahead and get that discount at the Publix that I know you've been waiting for. So, well, I seem so happy and so calm right now because it's the most calm I have been since the weekend when I have been teaching my teenage daughter how to drive. So speaking to a crowd of people is a lot less nerve-wracking than sitting in a car in Garner's Ferry with a 17-year-old who doesn't seem to understand which lane is exactly hers. And it made me think, maybe I failed to get some good advice. Obviously there's a lot on the internet. You go to AAA and you do that. And I read the AAA advice, but I felt like that there were some things that were leaving out for those of us trying to teach a teenage driver all the ropes. So, obviously they talk about seatbelts. We all need to be setting a good example and wearing seatbelts. But I feel like, having been through this process, that there's an extra step you ought to take if you're going to teach your teen how to drive, or whether it's your kid or your grandkid. And it's wearing those heavy padded coats, winter coats, and that way you protect your rib cage and your shoulders from those sudden stops. You know, they'll thank you for it, pretty much. That's a big one. You know, they suggest, of course, that you practice in rain and snow, darkness, all sorts of scenarios. And I've decided that's something I'm going to wait till she's 25. And in the meantime, I think the 6 a.m. trips to the empty Walmart parking lot will do her just fine, and set her up. So there we go. You know, there's distracted driving. I mean, kids obviously are going to use their cell phones to text or to call. You know, one thing the AAA didn't do is what I think we ought to do is, you know, look, have your teen put their cell phone in the trunk before you go, put it underneath the spare tire, and then when they're not looking, cancel the cell phone plan. All right? And that way they won't be distracted while driving. Now, you know, AAA talks about speeding a lot, and, you know, of course, we don't want to do that. And they said that we need to set a good example. So I found myself explaining to my daughter that the reason why I was kind of rushing one day is I needed to get to the liquor store before we had our next driving lesson. So it was very important. She understood that sometimes that is it. You know, they talk about driving with passengers. Obviously, when she gets her license, she's going to want to go with her friends. And they said you need to set limits on those. And I said to myself, you know what? One thing teenagers love, limits. That's what they really want. So I think, you know, just to make sure things are safe, I'm going to go ahead and pull out all the other seats in the car and pretty much avert that problem of having friends riding with her. The other thing they suggested, of course, is something called during visual scanning, talking while you're looking around, you know, and obviously talking out loud about what you see. And I was thinking that was one point in your life that you actually want to hear constant chatter from your teenager. But at the same time, I'm kind of tired of hearing about all the Starbucks that we keep on going by that we need to be stopping at. And you know, finally, you know, one of the things that I did was, you know, I said, look, you know, I'm probably kind of a wannabe Dave Barry type, so I went ahead and looked up columnist Dave Barry and see what he had to say about teenage advice, and he had teenage driving advice, and he had a good Q&A that I thought was helpful and kind of accurate these days. And you know, your teen might ask, you know, I've noticed that some roads have these extra lanes in them. What is the purpose of these extra lanes? And you know, Dave said, you know, to provide a place for you to swerve while you're texting. He said, the question teen might be using is like, when or how should I use my turn signal? And you know, you need to show them that apparently it indicates to other motorists that you have forgotten to turn off your turn signal. That's a pretty good one. You know, what's the best kind of food to eat while you're driving? You know, my teen probably would ask that. I would say that what Dave was suggesting was, of course, any food that can be eaten one-handed so you can still text with the other. You know, obviously you'll have teens who prefer to drive at a high rate of speed in densely populated areas while texting. How loud should the radio be on at that point? And Dave suggests that it should be on loud enough to basically kill a dog 50 yards away. And then, you know, what emergency situation may require you to actually use the steering wheel? And what Dave, of course, recommends is that you use your forehead to honk the horn until the emergency is passed. So, you know, again, some good advice out there, I think, for those of you who have maybe the privilege, like myself, to teach a teen how to drive. And, you know, what I always tell people, too, at these things is that there are really three kinds of iced tea. There's the sweet, the unsweet, and the kind that I need to get in Long Island at this point in my life. So I appreciate it all. I hope you have a good week. Thank you.
Andy, thank you very much for that sage advice. I do have a 15-year-old daughter going through that specific stage right now.
My prayers.
Yeah, thank you. They're much needed. I found that learning to drive on a golf cart has helped a little bit, although golf cart brakes and my car brakes are a lot different. And I need the winter jacket as well. Okay, don't forget your cart buckets. I think there was supposed to be a cart bucket announcement. There may have been one in the email, but don't forget the cart buckets in front of you. Please give often and give a lot. Next on the agenda, we have a special presentation from our District Foundation Chair. That's Paula Matthews from the Spring Valley Club. Paula?
Thank you, Mason. I appreciate it. I am in the Spring Valley Club, but I'm here today representing the 77 clubs that we have in this district, and particularly recognizing your club. And it's a pleasure to be back here and see some very familiar faces. here in our district. The first thing I want to do, the two things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank each and every one of you in this room for your continued support of our Rotary Foundation, our only charity. And I want to, then I'm going to make a special presentation to this club. But first, I want to do a little informational piece about our foundation. It is a bit complicated, and I want to talk to you about that just very briefly. There are actually three major funds in our foundation. One is our endowment, one is our polio fund, and the one I want to talk about today is our annual fund, because that's particularly important for what we're going to present to the club today. The annual fund, most of that giving comes from each and every one of you every quarter. You have, I think your club does it quarterly, don't they? You have a $25 charge on there, donation, that goes to the Rotary Foundation. And you do that for 4 quarters, you've given $100 to the foundation, thus you are a Paul Harris sustaining member. And all of that money goes to the annual fund. The second way is if you are a Paul Harris Society member, which is you give $1,000 a year to our Rotary Foundation, then you are a Paul Harris Society member, and all that goes to the annual fund. Now, all that money comes in, and what happens to it? Well, it is invested for 3 years by the foundation, and at the end of 3 years, half of what we gave that 3 years comes back to us and comes back to our district, and we can spend it how we want. So we spend half of it, this year we spent half of it to fund the 68 district grants that our members want to spend locally. We have 77 clubs, but only 68 of them wanted the $2,500 that we had available for each one of them. So that's one of the major things. The other thing is we give 20% of our DDF back to Rotary for polio. That was about $79,000. Then we give about $25,000 to the Rotary Peace Institute. This is money that you've given 3 years previously. And there are a number of, there are 5 of those around the world. The closest one to us is at Duke and UNC. And it's where a peace fellow will go and receive a master's in peace and conflict resolution. Then we also fund, with our money that comes back, 2 global scholars to go and study in another country and receive a master's degree in any one of the 6 areas of focus. And I mentioned the district grants that are coming back. And today I want to talk about what your club did. But before that, let me tell you that in addition to the money that came back to us from the foundation, the district also received another $25,000 for a disaster grant because of COVID-19. And we decided that all of that money should be spent on food, for food insecurity. And so it went to 5 different food banks within South Carolina. And you may already know, but $10,000 of that went to Harvest Hope here to fund. And I know that's an important initiative to this club because that's what your district grant was for. And so you've already spent $2,500 to go to Harvest Hope, Mason. And today I am thrilled to give you, and the Columbia Club, another $2,500 that will go to Harvest Hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Paula. We really appreciate that. Yes, we gave our $2,500 this summer because we didn't want to wait another day to get the money to Harvest Hope Food Bank. So with this $2,500 matching check, we'll get it to Harvest Hope as soon as possible this week so that it goes to those folks who do need the funds as soon as possible at the Harvest Hope Food Bank. She also mentioned the other use of the funds was the Global Scholar Fund. They only give out 2 a year. The Columbia Rotary Club, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is the recipient of one of those Global Scholar Funds. And she stood up here briefly 2 weeks ago, but we'll have her come back when she is finished with her scholarship. But she was one of the recipients through our club, and Jim Morris in the back there, who sponsored her, and she won. So our club is the proud recipient of a Global Scholar for this year. Thank you, Jim, for that leadership as well. Please continue to eat. As I announce every week, we do have a mask ordinance. When you're finished eating, go ahead and drinking. Please put on your mask. We want everybody to be comfortable here. We've got a good turnout, including your congressman. We love having him here, of course. Speaking of masks, I do want you all to remember that these are available for a $10 gift to our club. They say People of Action, and as you can see from the recipient of this check today and all the other things on our agenda, we are People of Action. We have scheduled, with the use of the funds from these masks, we will be doing our food packing event on December 5th here at Seawolves. It'll be that morning. Please plan to be here, and please plan to buy multiple masks. We still need y'all to purchase masks. I'd love to see everybody, when we're doing the kettle ringing over the holidays, wearing these masks. And when we're doing the food packing event and everything else that we're going to be doing, and eventually in the spring we'll be doing the bocce bash over at the baseball park. That should be a lot of fun, but I want everybody wearing those masks as well. Again, big thanks to Jim Hudson Automotive Group for sponsoring this purchasing of those masks as well, the initial sponsorship. Membership, as I've always reminded you all, is the lifeblood of our club. We need more members. And next Monday is the Discover Rotary event that we'll be having here at 11:30. Please bring a prospective member. On October 5th, next Monday. Our speaker is going to be Ted Pitts, the CEO of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce. So I think a lot of folks are going to want to hear what he has to say, including our members, but also prospective members. So please bring them next Monday. Also, next Monday, we will have a new quarter. So we'll be getting invoices with those pledge contributions of $25 to the International Foundation, but we also have $25 to our local foundation, which helps us with our own scholarship funds that we give out every year. So please plan to pay those invoices as soon as possible when they come. All right, we are ready to start with our main speakers today, and President-elect Catherine Davis is going to come up and do the introductions. Catherine.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have a real treat today because we have not one speaker but two, all from the Columbia Metropolitan Airport. The first speaker will be Mike Gula. He is the Executive Director of the Columbia Metropolitan Airport, and he was recently, well in 2018, he was promoted to the position of Executive Director of CAE, Columbia Metropolitan Airport, after a national recruitment initiative. Mike previously served as Director of Operations, Planning and Facilities at CAE. He is responsible for the overall business operations, administration, human resources, financing, marketing, community relations, air service development, maintenance, safety, security, and planning and development of the Richland-Lexington Airport District and the related airport facilities. Mike has gained knowledge and airport administrative experience while serving 4 different commercial service airports over 16 years. He previously served as the Director of Operations at the Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport, Operations Manager at Bluegrass Airport in Lexington, Kentucky, and as the Manager of Operations and Cargo Development at Toledo Express Airport in Ohio. Mike maintains an accredited airport executive certification from the American Association of Airport Executives, and in 2016 was named by Airport Business News a top 40 under 40 recipient. He received his Bachelor of Science in Aviation Management and Operations from Bowling Green State University. We will welcome Mike shortly and look forward to his remarks. I'll now introduce Ms. Kim Jamieson, who serves as the Director of Marketing and Air Service Development at the Columbia Metropolitan Airport. And in that role, Kim is tasked with setting, managing, and executing the overall strategic marketing direction for the airport, while also working to proactively increase air service to the airport. Kim was most recently the Public Relations Manager at the South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, Discover South Carolina. While in that role, she oversaw both domestic and international media relations, managed the award-winning South Carolina Chef Ambassador Program, and spearheaded numerous events for statewide tourism partners. A Greenville native, Kim attended the University of South Carolina, where she earned a BA in Public Relations and a Master's in Mass Communications, with a concentration in Integrated Marketing Communications. She currently serves on the National Public Relations Society of America Travel and Tourism Executive Board, and she is a Board of Trustee member for Historic Columbia. A graduate of Leadership Columbia, class of 2014, and Leadership South Carolina in 2015, Kim was also named an Outstanding Young Alumni by the University of South Carolina School of Journalism and Mass Communications in 2016. We welcome you, Kim, and look forward to your remarks after Mike. Mike, please take the podium, and please join me in welcoming Mike Gula.
Good afternoon, everybody. Back in 2018, I had the opportunity to speak in front of this group, and had I known then what I know now, I probably would have chosen a different career path. All joking aside, you know, the industry's in shambles right now. It's a difficult time for both the airports and the airlines. We're going to get through this, and I think on the back end of this, we'll come out stronger than we were prior to COVID. So I want to talk a little bit about the past and the current state of the airport. So in 2018, when I was here, that was a record year for us. It's the best year we had seen in over a decade as a response to capacity and what we have flying out of the airport. 2019 was even better. We were up 13% year over year. And just to give you a little bit of a stat, 4% is the national average for airports back in 2019. So for us to be up 13%, that was tremendous. Well, this year's been a little bit different for us, unfortunately. Like I said, COVID has hit us hard. And the month of April, we were down 97%, and that was pretty much across the board with all airports. We've all seemed to be really tracking about the same. Difficult times, no doubt, trying to get through this. We did receive some CARES Fund money, and definitely thank the federal government for that. Unfortunately, it's not going to last very long. We received $8.8 million, and airports, we're not going to make it without additional federal assistance. So I want to read something to you, and I'm going to be very brief because I get the doom and gloom. Kim gets the sexy part with the marketing. So I pulled this last Friday, and I thought this would be good for you all to hear. And this came from the Airport Council International group, and it says, government inaction at this time of crisis is unacceptable and will only further damage the pathway to recovery for this essential industry. Labor leaders recently signed onto a letter of congressional leadership urging action to help us ensure our airport workers and others continue receiving their hard-earned paychecks. Passing an economic relief package will not only support essential travel industry workers, but it will also help to save the local economies that airports support. Our world is at a time of crisis, with many people suffering from the impact of COVID-19 and the economic impact of the shutdowns. As airports around the country continue doing everything we can to ensure travel continues safely for the public, our government must do everything it can to ensure this essential service is able to recover from our losses and support our frontline workers. What scares me to death right now is that come October 1st, the CARES money runs out for the airlines. So what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, there could be 20,000 to 50,000 layoffs. It's scary. Any routes that we currently have that are marginal will likely be gone. We've already lost, well, I shouldn't say we've lost it, but it's been temporarily affected: our DCA market, our Miami market, LaGuardia, and Philadelphia. We really need this economy to start coming back around, like you all know, and everybody wants the same thing. It's extremely important for us that we ask our community, if you are going to fly, please check us first. We know it may not always make sense for you to fly out of CAE. We understand our rates are higher than the region. One reason for that is we're the largest airport east of the Mississippi that does not have an ultra low cost carrier, and that's why our prices are more expensive. And I think I commented on this back in 2018 that our region and our airport has had ultra low cost carriers in the past. Now, whether it was a failure from the airport side and how we marketed it, or a failure of the community to continue to take your hard-earned money at the North Carolina, I don't know. But it's really it's a huge struggle to try to get a low-cost carrier in here that understands that, 10 years ago, Columbia's evolved. I mean, it's a lot different market, and that's something that we're pushing. Kip and I mean, we're on calls weekly with these airlines trying to make a case for us. And all we're asking for right now is the support of the community. With that said, I'm going to introduce Kim Jamieson and let her talk about the marketing aspects. And I'll be available for questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for having us. I'm going to start this presentation by going back to a happier time, December of 2019. As Mike was mentioning before, CAE ended December of 2019 on a high note. Such a high note that it was the best year the airport had had in over a decade. Think about that, over a decade. As Mike mentioned, we saw 1.3 million passengers come through the airport. We saw an overall traffic increase of 13.03% over 2018. And American and Delta Airlines both added nonstop service to New York City, bringing our total up to 3 different route options to New York. And also, American Airlines added Miami service, which is a nonstop to a destination we had not seen before. We also partnered with the Riverbank Zoo to have a mom of a pod in the airport, something that a lot of traveling mothers were asking about, and we were able to provide. And CAE's green energy initiatives generated over $430,000 worth of energy savings. Additionally, the end of December 2019, we were starting work on a parking guidance system that's now in place at the CAE's parking garage. So as we headed into 2020, we were on cloud 9. In addition to everything I just listed and highlighted, we also launched our new brand refresh. This was a project that I worked on day and night. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this, but it was such a pivotal time for Columbia Metropolitan Airport, and this was the ideal time to launch this brand refresh. As you can see over here, the top logo is what we had, and probably something that you're very familiar with. It's something that we had for about 20 plus years. And this brand and identity really served us well for that time, but we were moving forward. We were coming into our own, and we were seeing such momentum going into 2020 that this was the perfect time for all the stars to align for us to have a brand refresh and launch this. We really wanted to ensure too that people, not only every employee in the airport, but people in the community saw that it wasn't just a new look and feel, but it was a way of working for the CAE. As some of you probably have seen, we have updated our welcome sign coming into the airport. This is something that's a point of pride for me and the marketing team, as well as all of CAE when we come around the corner every day and see this. By way of marketing, this is what we launched with at the beginning of 2019. We were really, really excited to push out new year, new look, new opportunities to travel from CAE. We also were really pushing forward our offerings, so 8 nonstop destinations, 9 airports, and 36 plus daily flights. Additionally, something that Mike touched on, the air service development. We were working really hard and had a number of fantastic destinations offered to local citizens. And we were having really fantastic conversations with ultra low cost carriers. Then March happened. March was a month that really affected everyone in this room. This is what happened at CAE. We immediately changed everything by way of what we were putting out there, fly and travel and go see, do, and experience, to how we were responding to COVID-19. We immediately had a number of team meetings led by Mike and the team to talk through all of the processes and protocols that needed to be in place to ensure that the people that were traveling, that were coming through the airport, that had to still travel, felt safe and secure, and things were in place by the guidelines set forth by the CDC and local and state government officials. We changed our website, so this is the homepage that you saw during the first March, April, May. You saw COVID-19 immediately and all of the updates that we went on daily and tried to make sure that everyone who was coming to our website knew exactly what we were doing to ensure their safety. As we heard from different airlines, what they were planning to do, may it be to cancel routes, adjust routes, take routes offline, we were communicating those things to everyone via our social media channels, website, and news press releases. In April, this continued. We saw that people were asking constantly and wanting to know what we were doing, and if they had to travel, how they would be safe. So we wanted to make sure to put a face with some of the things that we were talking about. And we highlighted a lot of our terminal support team to show them that we were here day and night working to ensure their safety while they're here in the terminal. One other thing that we did, we were seeing just the overall sentiment throughout the world was a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of just being scared or worried or concerned, unsure of what was to come with this COVID-19. So one thing we decided to do within the marketing department was to do a giveaway and say, don't postpone, or you're going to have to postpone travel right now, but you can always plan for the future. And so what we did is gave away 2 tickets to any one of our nonstop destinations. And we asked people in the comment section to tell us why they were ready to travel or where they wanted to travel when they could. And we had over 2,100 comments and over 4,100 people signing up to win this giveaway. Time and time again, one of the things that I saw, and I was so pleased that we were able to do this, was the comments of, we really needed this right now. So many people were just in a funk, rightly so, right? This is something we've never experienced before, but having CAE be able to provide this glimmer of hope for future travel was something that we were really excited to be a part of. This continued into May. Again, we were constantly updating everything, but we were really trying to get out in front of this as well. So Mike, every other day almost, I went to his office saying that we had another television news interview. We were ensuring that any update that the CAE had during this, we were communicating that to travelers. During this time, CAE installed plexiglass throughout a number of high touch point areas in the airport. We offered free masks, spacing markers, and we increased cleaning extensively. One of the other things we did by way of advertising and marketing in market, we really wanted to focus on the global sentiment. So we pulled down everything that we had by way of the new year, new look, new opportunities to travel, and immediately shifted to this. Stay in now and plan to fly out later, and we're in this together. Something that we have heard time and time again, and it was really true because we really were all in this together. A month or so later, we wanted to reassure travelers as we started to see people begin to travel again, that if they're flying through CAE, they would be safe during their travels. So some of the ads that we changed again were getting you there and back safely and with ease, will get you back to business with ease. As many of you probably know, our tagline is fly with ease. So we take that and play around with it a lot. Here's some more that we did. I'll read one of these to you. The middle one says rock with ease. This is a nod to our rocking chairs that we have in the airport. And it says, we're prepared to help you rebuild connections, rekindle relationships, and revisit the people and places you love. We're ready to rock. Fly local, fly with ease. And right now, what is up is the bottom right-hand corner that says travel smart, travel safe, getting you there and back safely and with ease. All right, so June to present. Where are we now? Mike kind of touched on this, but I'll revisit this as well. Since March, the stats are staggering. In April, all air travel worldwide was down 95%. Business travel was down, is currently down 90%. And when this stat was pulled at the beginning of August, the aviation industry had lost $84 billion. So what does this mean for CAE? Unfortunately, it's hard to report that parking revenue is down 57%, airline revenue is down 31%, tenant revenue is down 30%. This is all as of August of 2020. And right now, CAE is projected to close the year with only 246,000 employments and incur a financial loss in revenue of $8 million. Now, at the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that we saw 1.3 million passengers through the airport. So that's roughly about 660,000 employments. So if you look at 660,000 compared to 246,000, which will probably be just shy of 500,000 passengers that come through the airport. It's a stark difference between that 1.3 million that we ended the year on. So what's next? We're continuously working with our airline partners to fully restore our service, as Mike mentioned. And we are in constant talks with ultra low-cost carriers. I actually had one on Friday that was very, very promising and something that we hopefully will be able to announce soon. During this time, we really started to focus inward and see what kind of things we could go ahead and tackle during downtime. I'm excited to share that we are beginning work on the inline baggage system, so when you go to check in, you're no longer going to have to wheel your bag over to TSA, but they'll take it behind the counter. Parking guidance system, as I mentioned, is something that's up, and we're now in phase 2 of that project, working on moving all of those components to our website so you'll be able to book your parking before you even get to the airport. And then also an update to the escalators. So how can you guys help? As Mike mentioned, if you're in the business community and you and your companies are flying again, please consider CAE. Please just look and see. Sometimes we might not be the best option, but sometimes we are. And what better way to support local than flying CAE? We launched a newsletter a couple of months ago during mid-August, and so that will be rolling out every 2 months. So we'd love for you to sign up for our newsletter and hear about some of the things that are taking place at CAE, some of the updates, some of the new airlines, routes. So please make sure to sign up for takeoff to touchdown. And finally, if you're socially media inclined, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I run those, and I will know if you don't follow us. Thank you so much.
I think Mike and Kim are going to be available for questions now. If anybody has any questions, just raise your hand and Mike will give you a call.
Go ahead.
What is your break even for number of passengers you need to have come through there each year?
I don't know that I really know of a break-even number, at least not off the top of my head. But again, what Kim was saying, I mean, we were almost pushing 700,000 employments, now we're down to 246. The projected for 2021 looks even worse than that. Our advisor's telling us probably somewhere in the 210,000 employment ballpark. So it's going to take 3 to 4 years to come back out of this. There's no question.
How many employees do y'all have at the airport?
61 full-time. There's over 1,800 on the campus, but us as the Richland-Lexington Airport District, we have 61.
Recently flew out of Columbia to Spokane, Washington, and anytime I have an opportunity to fly, I always check Columbia first because it's probably one of my favorite airports in the country, and it's so convenient for us here in Columbia. Generally, it's a drive to Charlotte to get the lowest fare, but I do recommend people look at that because we want to support our airport. My question to you is, what percentage of your flights is military recruits, and have they sustained you in a way that's meaningful?
They have. I mean, they've been doing a lot of charters right now, but they still have the incoming recruits, which are obviously filling the capacity on the airlines. We factored that 70% of our market is business, 30%. 20% would be military, and then 10% for leisure. But we're hoping with a low-cost carrier we can get that leisure number up.
So I appreciate that you're looking for the low-cost carrier. I mean, I think I'm like I said, most people, if you're looking to Charlotte, you're like cost. Columbia is a very convenience focus. To me, like Columbia is a convenience airport. I just wanted to know if you guys had any convenience focused initiatives that you're rolling out within the next few years to make it more convenient, because I think that's really Columbia's appeal over Charlotte.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, we try to be as convenient as possible. Kim, you may want to speak to this, but one thing I would ask too, if you're not going to use CAE, check Charleston, check GSP. Let's keep our money within the state and quit running up to North Carolina.
I will say, that's very true. I will say that, right, you're exactly right. Convenience is something that is high priority within messaging for sure for us. We actually had, and you may have seen our commercial running now within the market, and that same commercial had that sentiment before coronavirus, and we have shifted and used the same video but changed the copy to focus on the here and now. So, but you're exactly right. It's a part of where we are, but we're now in almost like a rebuilding of messaging. So, thank you.
In the real estate world, I think what we've seen with this virus is that we are never going to have big office buildings and $75 square foot offices and huge retail centers anymore in this country and maybe throughout the world. How does all of that affect the airline industry? I noticed you said that you were trying to get back to full service, but what is full service, and will it be the same as what we've had before?
Yeah, my crystal ball's a little bit foggy on that one, but no, I mean, when we say get back to normal, that's to get back to our 2019 numbers. As far as real estate, one thing I will hit on here real quick, that's been a huge focus of mine ever since I started in Columbia 7 years ago. And we've got a lot of real estate out there. We've got over 500 acres that we're working on right now to get developed. Currently in contractor agreement with Magnus Developers. They're looking at starting up some spec buildings probably this winter, hopefully, as long as we can get some things squared away with DOT. But we're really looking to, diversify our revenue streams out there, so we're not so reliant just on the airlines themselves.
So I want to say, certainly I flew during the pandemic to California, and I just want to commend your staff. It's so welcoming, and certainly it's with ease. And often I check the airlines, and it's just as inexpensive to fly from Columbia. The only difference often is the parking. So I don't know the details on the parking, but if you can compete with the parking in Charlotte, often I'll be gone for 2 weeks, and the parking will make the difference. So if you can make the parking competitive with Charlotte, I think that would be a huge incentive.
Okay, so one thing, and I've heard that every time I speak, and I appreciate that. One thing I will let everybody know, our parking rates are the same rates as they were in 2004 when the garage was built. We have not increased them. But what we are trying to figure out is where's that press point, where's that threshold? And what we're finding, and I think the majority of the complaints that I get on parking are exactly your situation, where you're parking for 2 weeks, you come back and now you've got a $250, $300 parking bill. I understand that. So we teamed up with the Manchester Airports Group, and right now, I mean, they're a big time international company, but they're working with us right now where it's a pre-booking. You go online, you pre-book your stay, and it discounts you based on capacity and demand, obviously, but we're going to try this out for a couple years and see how it works.
And that pre-booking system, we're slated to have that launched toward the middle or end of November. So hopefully we'll be able to push that out publicly and be able to get some people on that to start to see some of these cost savings with parking.
Will it be a minimum number of days?
No.
Be 1 day or whatever?
So generally, what we're finding is your business traveler is going to be there 2 to 3 days. And the majority of the business traveler, they don't care because they're not paying for it. Their company's paying for it in most cases. But it's definitely more driven for those that are going to be staying over a 7-day period. But I'd love to have some feedback once that starts rolling out. Lisa.
Thank you for everything you've done. Your flights directly to New York make it so it's very cheap to go overseas, especially Europe. I've done that, and I've had a few friends do that, so thank you. Saved like $1,000 doing that, so awesome. My direct question is, ever since the outbreak happened, all you think about, or what my friends talk about and why they're not traveling, is you think of the beginning of like a zombie movie, and that when you're on an airplane, automatically everybody's sick. Is that really how it works, or is there filters in that air?
There's filters in that air.
And do they filter out COVID?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but
I'll say I've flown 3 times since March, and I feel like the aircrafts are cleaner than they ever have been. I'm a Delta loyalist, although I love United American because they're at CAE. But I also have never sat beside anyone else. And so Delta has been really good about filling capacity up to 60 or 65%. You feel like it's sterile and clean. So as far as the filters and if they're filtering out COVID, I don't know that, but
So it might
it's
be
a great
safer to fly
experience.
than it would be to go eat at a restaurant right now.
absolutely.
Right now.
And we did get your cell phone issue fixed in baggage claim.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, whenever major manufacturers have come to South Carolina in the past 30-plus years, Boeing and BMW, they both required an air fee. If such an opportunity came Columbia's way, if it ever did, would y'all be able to absorb that? Would y'all handle it? Is there room to expand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we're nowhere near capacity right now. We're probably about 22% capacity. So we've got room to expand, and we've got what's called a master plan, so that looks out 10 to 12 years. And we really regulate what we do off of that master plan. That could be a runway extension, a 3rd runway out there, a taxiway across Platte Springs Road to get you into the 250 acres that we own, right across Platte Springs.
We need a real ID after October 1st to fly on your airline?
No, that's been extended a full year, so it'll be October 1 of 2021.
I think most of us would rather fly out of Columbia Airport if we could. I think, I personally, if the prices here were within 10 to 25% of Charlotte or Greenville or Charleston, I would pick Columbia, but generally it's like 50 to 75% more to fly out of Columbia. Is there any way you can negotiate the airlines down a little bit, maybe not meeting the lowest prices, but get them down to where you're closer to another market you have drive to?
Yeah, I mean, we market that on a daily basis, and we're in constant contact with them all the time. When we see rates starting to jump up 25, 30%, we start asking the questions why. Again, it takes the community utilizing the airport for the prices to drop. A low-cost carrier is going to help with that. It's going to create a lot more competition within the markets. And like Kim was saying, we're hoping to have an announcement here very shortly. We've had some really good conversations here as of late, and hopefully there's some good news coming.
Okay, this is kind of a personal question. I live on the road on like the Jamieson Bridge. Used to never complain, and now it feels like they're landing in the White House. Has something happened that y'all changed patterns?
I'm not aware of any pattern changes. Have you heard any complaints?
Just we never get anything, and now it's like, whoa.
So we love the sound of aircraft.
You're not used to it.
I haven't heard of any changes in routes or anything.
No, I haven't either. But we're working on a project right now that may come to fruition with McIntyre Air Force Base. They're going to be redoing their runway next year. So we're trying to get their F-16s over to our airport as opposed to going to Savannah. So if they come over, you're going to hear a little more noise.
And some of the training too, with like.
I have a question. For the last 14 years, my church has used CAE for our mission trips. So we come in there about 10 deep.
Praise the Lord.
We come in there with about 10 deep with about 50 bags, and your people are exceptional because there's all kind of things in that bag that we get questions on. My question is, have y'all, I'm not afraid to fly, it's just I'm afraid to go to Africa where we go. My fear is not being able to get back into the country because of COVID. Have y'all seen any increase yet in international flying since COVID?
International is going to take a while to come back, for sure.
Right, to my knowledge too, I think there's still a pretty hefty list of places that Americans are not able to travel to or be able to come back from without quarantining for a certain amount of time. So, but yeah, I haven't heard of any other things.
All right, I think we've had enough. We're gonna have
They're going to stay and you guys answer some more questions. Thank you, Kim and Mike. I do have a couple of gifts for y'all. One is a pin and one is a mask. I'm not sure if one of y'all are Rotarian or not. So we're going to divide that up. Thank you again for being here and informing us about our local airport that we love and support. Next week, Catherine Davis, I've already let the cat out of the bag. I'm sorry. So next week's speaker is the head of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, Ted Pitts, and we also have Discover Rotary. So please bring prospects with you. We will exit with song.